Welcome to Tabletop Gaming Guild. Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the experiences and memories of playing tabletop games with friends and families can create. Today we're looking at Veiled Fate, published by Ivy Studios, designed by Max Anderson, Zach Dixon, and Austin Harrison. In Veiled Fate, you are controlling a number of demigods, but you only really care about the success of one of them. You're going to be playing various fate cards to take actions and vote on consequences for these demigods to influence their reputation. At the beginning of the game, you'll be randomly given a demigod that you care about, and you want to keep this information secret. In higher player count games, you may also have an ally that also cares for this god, but you don't know who that is. Veiled Fate is broken down into 3 ages, and at the beginning of each age, you will reveal a end of age effect. You don't do anything with these yet, there's just something you read and keep in mind for the end of the age, such as this card, which is Natural Order, which will trigger a vote at the end of the age to determine its effects. However, you can only participate in this vote if you save some voting cards. On a turn, each player gets 2 actions that can be used either for movement and or special abilities. When moving a demigod, you may either move to an adjacent region or into the city, or you may move that demigod onto a quest card if you're in the region for that quest or an adjacent region. And you must adhere to any placement restrictions on that quest card. Anytime you move a demigod onto a quest location, you must take a vote card and put it onto the vote space for that quest. These quests can also have 3 types of placement restrictions. Order restrictions, in which case you have to place the demigods in the specific order indicated, so in this case top down. They can have symbol restrictions, in which case each demigod has 1 of 3 symbols, so you can only place a matching demigod, or they can have color restrictions, so they can only have that specific demigod attached. There are also 3 areas with restrictions you need to note. First off is the quest cards that have placement restrictions, as I mentioned, but also once a demigod is on a quest card, they cannot have movement actions applied to them. Moving a demigod into the city causes the city token to go onto the city card. If the token's already there, it progresses 1 step forward and the player gets whatever bonus is noted. The last special area is the pool and the abyss. You cannot use a movement action to enter this area, and the regions on either side are considered adjacent to each other, so you can move directly from the coast to the mountain. If the demigod is in the abyss, you can use a movement action to move to the pool, and only the pool. From the pool, they can move to the city. And you get bonuses for that. You can also spend an action to use your various god powers. All these god powers require you to spend fate cards, and they generally override certain rules, such as Portal allows you to spend 3 fate cards to move a demigod anywhere on the board, ignoring any movement or placement restrictions. Once you've taken 2 actions, your turn ends and it goes to the next player. You can choose to only take 1 action and pass on your second action. And at any point, if you've not used 2 actions, you can choose to rest, in which case you are out for the rest of the age. First person to rest gets to take the first player token immediately. If at any point the player's action causes one of these quest cards to be completely filled, it would resolve immediately. To understand how the resolution occurs, let's break down this quest card. On the top of the quest card, you're going to have the quest's name, but below that you're going to have an icon that indicates either +2, +1, 0, or -1. If there's a +1, the person who triggered the quest picks a different player to add an extra fate to that quest. If it's +2, he must pick 2 different players. It's important to note that you cannot choose yourself to add a vote, but you can choose somebody who has no fate cards left, and they would randomly choose one from the top of the deck, get to glance at it before adding it to the vote. Once that is resolved, you would shuffle these fate cards, reveal 1 at a time. If you see a +2, you would add 2 from the deck into the vote, shuffle it, and then continue to reveal. Other Votes can be either 1 or 2 feathers, or 1 or 2 scorpions. You would then total the feathers and scorpions and see which side prevailed. This will determine the effect for each position on the quest. There are 4 symbols to note on these quests. There's sickles that causes that demigod to lose renown, omega symbols that causes them to gain, these coin symbols that are split, which means you are going to flip a coin to determine which of the 2 possible results you get, as well as these eye symbols that causes that demigod to go into the abyss. After the quest is resolved, it is removed from the game, and the age ends if either all quests have been removed or every player has chosen to rest. Once the end of age is triggered, you would vote on the end of age effects. Generally, the voting starts with the person to the left of whoever's holding the first player token. So the first player gets a little bit more information by voting last and seeing how many cards people spent. However, you can only vote if you have cards remaining, so you may want to save them for this vote. At the end of the third age, the game ends, everybody reveals the demigod they care about, and the player attached to the highest renown demigod wins, ignoring any demigods not attached to any players. So that's how Veiled Fate is played. It's an interesting social deduction game with a lot of mechanics that have more to them than they initially seem. Forcing players to add extra votes to a quest can actually be more sinister than at first it seems, because neither character may actually care about the results, but forcing them to use a vote may cause them to ruin their future plans, such as not having enough fate for a future ability, or not being able to contribute to a later vote, or even forcing them to rest earlier than they had planned. I'm not entirely sure why they did the segmented board. It may have been just a storage consideration, or it could be planning for future expansions so you can swap these out. I think they missed out because otherwise they could have done a reverse side of the board, because one of the effects of having a lower player count is you're going to have fewer of these quests on the board, and it doesn't specify which locations get the quest, so you end up with dead spaces that have no function on the game other than potentially somewhere you can send a demigod to have them a little less useful. The other thing that I felt was somewhat of a miss was it seemed too easy to determine who cared about what. Could be just because my family tends to be pretty bad at social deduction, or it could be follow the game. It's a little hard to tell. With all that said, I was a little bit disappointed. I can see people enjoying this, especially if they're really into social deduction and want something a little bit meatier, where you can have more meaningful decisions rather than just simply the deduction element. But personally, it fell a little flat for me. It's still good enough that it's going to stay in my collection for now, and I'll probably pull it out periodically. But it's probably not going to stay in my collection forever. Thank you again for watching. Please join us again on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and other social medias. And please don't forget to like and subscribe.